Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and Chodesh Tov. We're starting a new month. I mean, technically, we're finishing Av, and tonight we start with Elul, and Elul is the month of opportunity. And the question that I want to raise and explore for a few moments is the question of how much agency and control we have over our own lives. So if I were to ask you right now, how much control do you have over your own life? You might say very little. But Rambam, Maimonides, actually believed and wrote that when it comes to the kinds of person we are, when it comes to our qualities, we have a tremendous amount of control. He wrote as part of Mishnah Torah, as part of his exposition on Jewish law, a series of passages known as Hilchot Teshuvah, laws having to do with repentance. And I'll just share a little bit of what he said. First of all, this sounds like it's almost a funny thing to say, but he wrote beautifully. His Hebrew is magnificent, and he's, in addition to being a brilliant philosopher and halachist and Talmudist and physician, he was also a masterful stylist. Reshut l'chol adam netuna ve'im ratza lahatot atzmo l'derech tova ve'lihyot tzadik harashut biado. So everyone has will, free will. If we want to lean in the direction of goodness and to be righteous, we have that capacity. If we want to lean, we have the capacity to lean in the other direction and to be wicked. And he goes on, and he was capable of a spicy turn of phrase. So everyone don't think the way the foolish people of the world think, and the way, how would you translate golem? The cognitively challenged among our people might think. Don't think like those people, namely, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gozer al ha'adam mitchilat briato liyot tzadik or rasha, that God decrees whether we're going to be wicked or good when we are born. Ein hadavar kain. That's not true. Kol adam ra'ui lo lihiyot tzadik k'Moshe Rabbeinu. Everyone can be as righteous as Moshe, or rasha k'Yeravam, or as wicked as Yerovam. And then he goes on to say, we can be wise, we can be foolish, we can be compassionate, we can be cruel, we can be cheap, we can be generous. All of this is up to us. So I tossed that out there to begin, and one of the things that occurs to me is there is perhaps a question of innate character that we might think about, or a question of personality, or a question of capacity. Are we really all able in all of these areas to really make these choices? Maimonides is saying, yes, we are. Don't think that this is in the stars. Don't think that God makes this one this way and that one that way. We have the capacity, we can make these choices. So we start in that space, which is in many respects very empowering, perhaps a little bit frightening. It's a lot of responsibility for us to determine what steps we are going to take to be righteous rather than wicked, to be generous rather than stingy, etc. This morning, I want to put it in a slightly different context, or perhaps to widen the context, and that's based on what we read in this morning's Torah portion. And I will do so by saying that no human being is an island. And so to imagine that we're doing all of this in a vacuum, that we are not impacted by the people around us, that our situation isn't impacted, is to not tell the whole story. And the Torah recognizes this. So there is that moment that I referred to earlier, where we are told that poverty will never end. Lo yechdal evyon mikerev haaretz. And then we are told, therefore, patoach tiftach et yadcha, open up your hands, le'achicha, to your fellow, le'oniyecha, to your poor person, le'evyoncha, to your unfortunate person, be'artzecha, in your land. The idea is that we have a certain responsibility to make choices that will impact somebody else. So the person who is impoverished, as I said earlier, is not blamed for that person's poverty. We don't say what's wrong with that person, we say what are our responsibilities. So the choices aren't just what do we do in terms of our own behavior? The choices are what do we do in order to affect other people's circumstances? And I was just thinking about it recently. It's a form of pronoun morality that the Torah is trying to teach. It is again and again and again, you have to open your hand to your fellow, to your poor person, to your ha, ha, ha. It's yours, it's yours, it's yours. You cannot just just dump this person and this problem off on somebody else. Be'artzecha, in your land. It is a beautiful encapsulation of the ethical responsibilities that we who are in community with each other have towards each other. So I want to put what Maimonides says in a certain context. Of course, we each have to make choices about ourselves. How are we going to behave? We should not feel stuck. We should not feel that there's a decree out there that makes us one way or another. But to the extent that we find ourselves in certain situations, it's not just up to us. It's up to the people around us to actually open hearts and open hands in order to make a difference. So I charge us, as we prepare to enter the month of Elul, to think about what it is that we can impact in terms of our own behavior, our own midot, our own deot, our own qualities. Deot is the term that Maimonides used. And also to think about what we can do to impact the people around us. This sort of a confluence of personal circumstance and of society that we are all part of. How do we navigate what we can do vis-a-vis ourselves, what we can do vis-a-vis others? And I will conclude where the parasha begins. Re'eh anochi noten lifnechem hayom bracha uklala. It is in the plural. God says, I give lifnechem, to all of you. It is not just one. All of you, all of us, the choice between blessing and curse. And as we begin this month, and as we look forward to this new year, I charge us to make the choices for ourselves and for others that will tilt our lives, our community, and the world towards bracha, towards blessing. Shabbat shalom.